There are moments when the heart feels unbearably heavy, as if an unseen weight presses against the chest, as if the entire world has collapsed into a single corner inside you. In moments like these, God does not abandon His servants without an opening. He opens a door made of light. Whoever pauses before it realizes that it is not a door of words, but a door of life. That door is the Quran. Ibn Al-Qayyim, may God have mercy on him, was among those who truly grasped the secret of this light, how the Quran can reorganize the soul from within, not through abstract preaching, but through deep inner transformation. In this video, we are not merely reading, we are walking together on a calm journey of reflection, drawing closer to Ibn Al-Qayyim's understanding and allowing the verses to touch our souls the way they were created to do. Part 1. What is reflection according to Ibn Al-Qayyim? For Ibn Al-Qayyim, reflection is not a quick glance at words, nor a recitation that stops at the tongue. It is a true crossing, a movement from the surface of letters into the depths of the heart. It is to read with your eyes, but to understand with your heart. To hear the verse with your ears, yet feel its weight of its meaning within you. The Quran, in his view, was not revealed merely to be memorized, but to transform, to awaken what has fallen asleep inside you, and to bring order to the silent chaos within. Ibn Al-Qayyim emphasizes that the verses of the Quran do not bear fruit in a crowded heart, nor in a heart lost in worldly distractions, nor in a heart drowned in desire, nor in a heart whose doors have been closed to remembrance. That is why before calling you to reflection, he calls you to something deeper, preparing the heart to receive the light. The Quran is like rain, and the heart is like the land. If the soil is fertile, it brings forth life. If it is hardened, neither heavy rain nor gentle drizzle will benefit it. The first step of reflection, according to Ibn Al-Qayyim, is the presence of the heart. When the heart is absent, only the sound remains, and when the inner self does not engage, recitation turns into habit, not worship. He repeatedly reminded that the Quran was revealed to be understood and acted upon, not to be reduced to words endlessly repeated. True reflection is the union of understanding and action, of knowledge and transformation. A verse without impact is like a light without a path. It shines, but it does not lead. Ibn Al-Qayyim explains that reflection unfolds in 3 stages. Observation, to read the verse as if you are encountering it for the very first time. Understanding, to grasp its deeper meaning, not just its outward wording. Movement, to allow that meaning to turn into a decision, a change, or a step forward in your life. Only here does the reflection God intends come to life, a reflection that shapes behavior, builds certainty, and leaves you different after the reading than you were before it. Among the most profound insights attributed to Ibn Al-Qayyim is that when a person opens a door in their heart to a verse, that verse opens doors they never knew existed. The purer the intention and the deeper the contemplation, the wider the light expands within. And the heavier the heart becomes, the duller the emotions grow, the less benefit is gained, no matter how great the words themselves are. For this reason, he said that the Quran opens its light to those who sincerely seek guidance and withholds it from those who settle for sound without meaning. Reflection, for Ibn Al-Qayyim, is not a mental exercise. It is a profound spiritual experience, a new way of seeing yourself, of understanding your life, and of rebuilding your relationship with God. With time and persistence, the Quran transforms from a text that is merely heard into a light that leads, from words that are recited into a way of thinking and living. This is the essence of the path: to return to the Quran to find yourself, not to collect information; to return to be healed, not merely to read; to return to be guided, not to increase knowledge alone. Part 2. The Heart, the Place of Light and the Place of Ruin. Ibn Al-Qayyim affirms that the heart is the center of everything in a human being's life. Through it one understands, through it one feels, and through it one truly knows.
For this reason, Ibn Al-Qayyim emphasized that a person may be guided through their heart and may also be led astray by that very same heart. The heart is the compass. If it is aligned, the path remains straight. If it is distorted, the traveler is lost, even if their deeds appear many. That is why he insisted that the first thing in need of reform is the heart itself. For actions, no matter how great, remain fragile when they emerge from a diseased heart. The problem, he taught, is not always a lack of obedience, but the vessel from which that obedience flows. Ibn al-Qayyim believed that if the heart is not purified from its inner illnesses, the light of the Quran will not enter it, even if its owner reads hundreds of pages every single day. The deficiency is not in the light, it is in the vessel meant to receive it. He described hearts as though they were layers of land. Some hearts are soft soil. A light rainfall is enough for them to bring forth goodness. Some are hardened ground. No matter how heavy the rain, they absorb nothing. And some are polluted land, requiring time, effort, and patience before they can become fertile again. So too are hearts. Hearts that respond quickly, hearts that require time and perseverance, and hearts whose doors of reflection have been sealed, until verses pass through the ears without ever reaching awareness. For this reason, Ibn al-Qayyim would often repeat that the Quran does not change people until the light of the verse meets the readiness of the heart. If one is absent, the other bears no fruit, no matter how long the listening and no matter how frequent the recitation. Among the greatest corruptors of the heart, in his view, is heedlessness. Heedlessness is not merely momentary forgetfulness, it is an inner disconnection that causes a person to live on the surface of life, far from the depth where God is felt as present and real. And heedlessness does not always arrive in the form of obvious sin. Sometimes it slips in as constant busyness, endless routine, or repetition without awareness, until sensitivity is slowly extinguished from within. With time, the heart begins to resemble a layer of stone. Meanings no longer penetrate it, and reminders no longer move it, no matter how powerful they are. This is why Ibn al-Qayyim believed that the most dangerous state of the heart is when its owner does not realize that it is ill. A person who feels pain seeks treatment, but one who believes they are well, while silently drowning in unseen weakness, drifts away from the light, step by step, without noticing. From this understanding came his well-known insight that sins resemble rust, a thin layer that forms upon the heart. If it is not removed quickly, it accumulates until the heart hardens and eventually seals shut. Yet, despite the intensity of his descriptions of heart diseases, Ibn al-Qayyim carried a vision filled with hope. He believed that the heart can return no matter how far it has wandered, and that God never closes his door to a heart that sincerely seeks light. Even the hardened heart can soften, even the dry heart can bloom, if a person approaches the Quran with an honest soul and a genuine desire to change. Then the light begins to seep inward, slowly but truly, and life returns to places their owner once believed were dead. Here, Ibn Al-Qayyim reveals his deep understanding of human nature. He does not condemn the heart for becoming weak. He condemns it only when it insists on remaining weak. He does not blame it for falling ill. He blames it only when it becomes content with sickness. For this reason, he said, the heart that struggles to return to God is closer to God than a heart that has never been tested. Struggle is a sign of life. Stagnation is a sign of death. In Ibn al-Qayyim's vision, the heart is not something repaired once and then abandoned. It is a structure renewed daily. Sometimes it clears, sometimes it clouds, sometimes it draws near, sometimes it drifts away. But as long as its owner knows the way back, they are never truly lost. Here lies the essence of Ibn al-Qayyim's reflections. When the heart continues to move forward, even with small steps, God opens doors for it that it never knew existed. Part 3. The Quran, a healing for the heart that presents itself. Ibn al-Qayyim explains that the Quran is not a book of information, nor merely a collection of rulings to be recited. It is healing in the fullest sense of the word, a healing that goes beyond the body, that treats fear, guides the lost, mends a heart exhausted by life, and restores balance to a soul that has been shaken.
A person does not truly realize how scattered they have become along the paths of life until they discover that what exhausts them the most is not what people see on the outside, but what moves silently within. Exhausting thoughts, painful memories, hidden anxiety, an unsettled soul that never finds rest, and a weakening certainty that slips in quietly without permission. Here, precisely here, begins the role of the Quran in Ibn al-Qayyim's understanding. It is the physician who knows your illness before you admit it yourself, and offers the cure before you even give the pain a name. Ibn al-Qayyim explains that verses do not act upon the heart unless they enter it correctly, bringing certainty with them, driving doubt out, and calming the inner turmoil. The Quran is not words to be heard, but messages to be understood. A single verse read with sincerity can redirect the course of an entire life more powerfully than countless pages read without the presence of the heart. For this reason, Ibn al-Qayyim used to say that healing through the Quran comes in proportion to the heart's readiness to receive it. When the heart is present, healing is near and swift. When the heart is absent, the verses circle around it without ever entering. Among the greatest ailments the Quran heals, according to Ibn al-Qayyim, is fear. When the soul becomes attached to the future and fears what it does not know, the mind scatters and the heart trembles. But the Quran teaches you that the future is not unknown, it is written by a hand. That fear changes nothing, while certainty changes everything. When a person hears the words of God and rely upon the ever-living who does not die, they suddenly feel the world grow lighter, as though the weight of days has been placed into a hand whose power never fades and whose dominion never ends. Ibn al-Qayyim also explains that the Quran heals sorrow, because sorrow is not a passing moment, but a long accumulation of disappointments, losses, and memories the heart refuses to release. When the Quran addresses you with the words, "Do not grieve, indeed God is with us," it does not merely reassure the mind, it awakens within the heart a profound sense of divine companionship, a feeling that erases the loneliness of the road and restores the strength to stand once again. Ibn Al-Qayyim further sees that the Quran treats the illness of arrogance. When the self imagines it possesses everything, it loses sight of truth. So the verses return the human being to their true scale. God is the self-sufficient, and you are the needy. The soul humbles itself. It no longer deceives itself. It no longer forgets its weakness before a hand that holds all things. This constant reminder restores the balance to the soul. For when a person knows their true place, they learn how to walk through life. Ibn Al-Qayyim stresses that this Quranic healing is neither magic nor illusion. It is a deep inner process. The verses reshape the way one thinks, wash the inner self of dark thoughts, and remind the human being that God is near, and that no matter how narrow the path becomes, it is never closed. The more a person reflects, the more they uncover meanings of tranquility that were once absent from their life. Ibn Al-Qayyim concludes this chapter with a powerful truth. The Quran is healing for the one who reads it seeking healing. But the one who reads it out of habit or as sound without meaning reads only the surface and never touches the essence of the light. Whoever wants a verse to change their life must open the door of the heart before opening the door of the ear. Part 4. Sincerity, the door without which no doors open. Ibn Al-Qayyim believes that sincerity is the foundation of every path, the beginning of every light, and the first step in any journey where a person seeks closeness to God. Without sincerity, actions become hollow movements, worship turns into routine, supplication becomes mere sound, and the soul withers because it has lost the truth that connects it to God. Ibn Al-Qayyim often repeated that sincerity is not a word spoken, but an inner state, unseen by people and known only to its owner. A state in which a person asks himself honestly, why am I doing this? For whom? And what am I truly seeking? He explains that one of the greatest threats to sincerity is attaching the heart to the approval of people more than to the pleasure of God. A person acts to be praised, gives charity to be called generous, prays to be seen as righteous, and so God is left with little true share of the deed, even if the action appears virtuous on the outside. For actions, according to Ibn Al-Qayyim, have two faces, one seen by people and one seen by God. The face seen by people may appear beautiful, but it is the face seen by God that determines the true value and reality of the deed.
The face of an action that God sees is the only face that determines its worth. If it is pure, it is accepted, and if it is tainted by showing off, it is returned to its owner, no matter how great it may appear in the eyes of people. Ibn Al-Qayyim adds that sincerity is not as simple as many imagine. The human soul by nature loves to be seen, is drawn to praise, finds comfort in admiration, and, often without awareness, seeks the approval of others. Because the heart shifts quickly, it may be filled with truthfulness one moment, then slip the next into attachment to the image it presents to people. For this reason, Ibn Al-Qayyim used to say that sincerity requires long struggle, careful self-monitoring, and honesty at the source before the action ever reaches its outward form. Yet, alongside this warning, Ibn Al-Qayyim opens a wide door of hope. He explains that sincerity does not mean perfection, nor does it mean that the heart never weakens. Rather, it means that a person's final aim is God, and that their return to God is swift whenever they sense their intention has drifted. Sincerity, in his view, is not a fixed state, but a continuous movement in which a person repeatedly returns to themselves to correct their direction. When the direction is sound,
the action becomes sound. And when the action is sound, life itself finds balance. Ibn Al-Qayyim says, "One of the signs of sincerity is that your actions do not change when people's opinions of you change. If you do good because God sees you, it will not matter who among people does not. And if you work solely for the sake of God, you will not break when appreciation or praise is absent, because the true rewards are not here on earth, but there in the heavens. An action that is not raised to God has no true value, even if people speak of it at length." Ibn al-Qayyim further clarifies that sincerity is the secret that makes a small deed great in the sight of God. A person may speak a single honest word with a pure intention, and God opens through it doors that remain closed to others. Another may give only a single coin, yet its weight with God surpasses vast wealth, because that coin came from a pure heart, while other fortunes came from hearts occupied with how people look at them. The true measure, then, is not the size of the action, but the depth of the intention behind it. Ibn al-Qayyim closes this chapter with a subtle and beautiful insight. Sincerity frees a person from anxiety. When one works for God alone, they are no longer imprisoned by people's opinions, no longer tense before their judgments, and no longer dependent on pleasing them. They live in peace because they know that the one who sees them is God, the one who rewards them is God, and the path they walk is not a competition with people, but a journey of closeness to the Lord of people. Thus, sincerity becomes a door without which no doors open, not the door of understanding, not the door of reflection, not the door of tranquility, and not the door of nearness. Whoever comes to know this door comes to know the entire path. Part 5. Reliance, the rest of the heart when the path becomes heavy. Ibn al-Qayyim views reliance upon God not as a phrase to be spoken, nor as a temporary emotional feeling, but a deep state of faith, a state in which a person lives between two perfectly balanced realities, taking every possible means with full effort while surrendering the outcomes entirely to God.
With absolute certainty, reliance upon God does not mean that a person sits idle, waiting for relief, nor does it mean placing complete dependence upon oneself, forgetting that above every cause stands a Lord, the one who creates causes, directs them, and places blessing within them. True reliance is that delicate balance between the movement of the limbs and the serenity of the heart. Ibn al-Qayyim says that when the heart is filled with reliance, it becomes firmer than mountains, unshaken by circumstances, unafraid of the fluctuations of the world, and not defeated by loss. For its attachment is to one whose power never changes and whose wisdom never wavers. The true one who relies upon God, when the world tightens around them, does not collapse. Instead, they lift their gaze to the heavens with a steady heart and say, "God is sufficient for me." This phrase is not an escape, it is strength. Not weakness, but a clear declaration that the servant has a Lord who never abandons them. Ibn al-Qayyim explains that reliance grants a person profound tranquility because it frees them from fear of the future. Fear of tomorrow is among the greatest drains on the soul. But when a person realizes that the future is never unknown to God, the heart grows calm, anxiety loosens its grip, and the person becomes more capable of facing a life whose details cannot be predicted. Knowing that everything is measured and that God does not neglect his servant allows the soul to walk in peace even when the path is dark. Yet, Ibn al-Qayyim insists that reliance does not mean abandoning effort, for that is not reliance but negligence.
The believer works, struggles, plans, and takes every possible means, but does not tie their heart to what lies in their own hands. They tie it to what lies in the hand of God. That is why he said, "Whoever attaches their heart to a cause is deprived of its blessing." Causes may function, but blessing descends only from God. Among the most beautiful insights Ibn Al-Qayyim offers is that reliance is not only for times of hardship, but also for times of ease. For a person who lives in blessing while fearing its loss lives in endless anxiety. But the one who relies upon God sees blessings as temporary gifts, bestowed with wisdom and withdrawn with wisdom. With this understanding, a person transforms from a servant of blessings into a servant of the giver. Ibn Al-Qayyim also says that one of the signs of true reliance is that a person flees from sin as they would flee from fire. For they know that a heart distant from God will never taste tranquility, no matter how much of the world it possesses. Reliance, then, is not physical comfort, nor escape from effort, but a deep inner rest, born when a person entrusts their affair to the one in whose hand lies everything.
It is a spiritual rest, for the soul finds no true stability unless it is close to God. The closer a person draws to God, the stronger their reliance becomes, and the stronger their reliance, the deeper their inner stability grows. For this reason, Ibn Al-Qayyim concludes this chapter with a wisdom rich in meaning, that reliance upon God spares a person half the burdens of life, because it allows them to strive without fear, to plan without panic, and to live without excessive anxiety. Whoever tastes the sweetness of reliance realizes that it is not a passing act of worship, but a way of life, one that makes a person stronger than circumstances, calmer than chaos, and closer to God than ever before. Part 6. Self-accountability. A mirror that reveals what God sees in you. Ibn Al-Qayyim teaches that a person may deceive others and may even deceive themselves, but they can never deceive God. For God does not look at appearances, He looks at hearts. From this understanding, Ibn Al-Qayyim made self-accountability one of the greatest doors of reflection. Because the Quran does not work in a heart that refuses to see its own flaws. When a person runs from confronting themselves, they spend a lifetime treating surface symptoms, while the true illness remains hidden within, slowly exhausting the soul until its light fades without the person realizing it. Ibn Al-Qayyim explains that self-accountability is not self-punishment, nor harshness, nor psychological cruelty. It is honesty, honesty with the heart, honesty with one's actions, and honesty with God. It is for a person to stand before themselves calmly and ask with courage, "What does God want from me? What have I repaired? What have I damaged? What have I prepared for my hereafter? And what have I done for my worldly life?" These questions are not easy, but they alone reveal the true path, because they show you what people never see in you. Ibn Al-Qayyim emphasizes that the soul naturally tends to escape. It escapes from admitting mistakes. It escapes from repentance after sin. It escapes from responsibility and places blame on circumstances. It sees the flaws of others more clearly than its own. That is why Ibn Al-Qayyim, in his view, self-accountability is an inner battle,
one that requires courage more than it requires knowledge. When a person sits with themselves honestly, they see what they once feared, admit what they once denied, and face what they had been running from for many years. Yet Ibn Al-Qayyim affirms that this confrontation is not the end of the road, it is its beginning. For whoever recognizes their flaw learns how to correct it. Whoever understands their weakness learns how to strengthen it. And whoever diagnoses their illness knows where to place the cure. That is why he said, "The greatest loss is for days to pass without a person knowing what they are lacking. For whoever does not know the location of the disease will never find the path to healing." Ibn Al-Qayyim believes that self-accountability is a cause of inner stability. A heart that lives without review slowly becomes polluted. Small sins accumulate upon it until it loses the ability to receive new light. But the heart that constantly reviews itself remains alive, awake, and quick to return to God whenever it drifts away. Self-accountability preserves the soul's life because it gives it the ability to correct its course continuously. Among Ibn Al-Qayyim's most profound words in this chapter, "The one who holds himself accountable in this world lives in peace, and the one who avoids accountability lives anxious and fleeing. Because the heart knows it is on the wrong path, even if the mind denies it. The more a person purifies his heart from within, the clearer the path becomes before him, and the closer he grows to God without even realizing it." Ibn Al-Qayyim ends this chapter with a great wisdom. The soul that holds itself accountable today saves its owner tomorrow. And the greatest gift a person can give themselves is not wealth or success, but a moment of honesty in which they say, "My Lord, show me who I truly am, so that I may find my way to you." Part 7. Following Desire, the Easy Path That Ends in Loss. Ibn Al-Qayyim explains that among the most dangerous forces that corrupt both the heart and the mind is the following of desire. Desire is not a passing wish. It is a hidden power that pulls a person away from the right path and leads them towards what the self enjoys, not what truly reforms it. He says that when desire settles in the heart, truth becomes heavy, falsehood becomes easy, obedience feels exhausting, and disobedience feels light. This reversal of values is the most dangerous state a person can reach because they do not realize their loss until it is too late. In Ibn Al-Qayyim's understanding, desire does not appear suddenly. It forms slowly. It begins with a small step in which a person accommodates his weakness, then follows it with another step.
Then comes the next step. A person begins by justifying a slip, then takes another step, allowing desire to speak louder than reason. Over time, these small steps turn into a habit, one that slowly closes the road to truth and opens another path whose ending is unknown. That is why Ibn Al-Qayyim consistently warned against underestimating sin. A small sin, when repeated, grows, and when it multiplies, it dims the heart and veils it from seeing the light. Ibn Al-Qayyim explains that the most dangerous aspect of desire is that it does not stop at making a person fall. It convinces him to defend his fall. Sin becomes an opinion. Advice becomes an attack. Warning becomes interference. And closeness to God feels like restriction. Step by step, a person drifts away from hearing the truth,
from reflection, from the voice of a living heart. A heart overpowered by desire does not receive revelation as others do. The words reach the ear, but their meaning never reaches within, because the inner door is sealed by craving and pride. Yet, despite the danger of desire, Ibn Al-Qayyim understood human nature deeply. He did not ask people to be flawless angels, but to possess the strength to return. Desire may overcome you one day, but it should never rule you forever, as long as awareness remains and the desire to reform is sincere. According to Ibn Al-Qayyim, repentance is the greatest weapon against desire, because it rearranges the heart, removes what has accumulated within it, and prepares it once again to receive light. He also emphasizes that a sign of escaping desire is learning how to say no. No to cravings that lead to the forbidden. No to habits that weaken the soul. No to thoughts that excuse neglect. No to anything that distances a person from the path God intends for him. This no is not cruelty, it is mercy. It rescues a person from himself and guides him back to a road that leads to an inner peace no fleeting pleasure can offer. Ibn al-Qayyim further clarifies that freedom from desire is not built on restraint alone, but on replacement. Whomever gives something up for God, God replaces it with something better. This is a promise that never changes. Whomever abandons a desire that harms him is granted a tranquility that suffices him. Whomever leaves a habit that weakens his heart is gifted a light that strengthens him. And whomever closes a dark door will find God opening for him a path he will never regret. At the conclusion of this chapter, Ibn al-Qayyim presents a profound principle. Every pleasure that distances you from God will one day turn into pain, and every hardship that draws you closer to God will one day become comfort. This principle alone is enough for a person to know which path to take, which path to abandon, and which inner voice deserves to be heard. Part 8. The Light of the Quran, when it becomes a way of life, not just a reading. Ibn al-Qayyim believes that the greatest fruit of reflection is not the knowledge a reader gains from between the lines, but the transformation that quietly takes place within, often without him even realizing it. According to Ibn al-Qayyim's understanding, the Quran is not a book to be read and then closed, nor verses we pass by in fleeting moments of the day. It is a living light, one that enters the heart, reshapes it from within, and gives the soul a new form of life. This light does not appear all at once. It gathers slowly, day after day. Every verse illuminates a hidden corner of the heart. Every meaning opens a new door. Every deep reflection reshapes how a person sees the world. Ibn al-Qayyim says, "Whoever lives with the Quran in this way will never see life as he once did. Trials become messages. Tests become stages of growth. Success turns into a trust. People become means, not objects. And this world becomes a passage, not a home." This shift in perception is the greatest fruit of reflection, because it allows a person to live with inner peace even in the hardest moments. Every decree carries wisdom. Every delay holds mercy. Every pain opens a door, even if only after time. Ibn al-Qayyim emphasizes that when the Quran truly enters the heart, it frees a person from many chains: fear, dependence on people, the illusion of control, haste, and anger. A person who lives without divine light is like one walking in darkness, easily exhausted, constantly afraid, often stopping, and quickly lost. But the one guided by the Quran walks with steady steps because he is not alone. He walks with words sent down from above the 7 heavens. Ibn Al-Qayyim points out that one of the greatest things the Quran does is return a person to himself. People often drift away from their true nature, lost in outer images, busy pleasing others, forgetful of how God sees them. But when the Quran is reflected upon sincerely, it reveals the soul. It allows a person to see his weakness without fear, his need for God without shame, and his missteps without excuses. This deep self-awareness is one of the highest forms of strength. Ibn Al-Qayyim adds, "The Quran does not give its light to those who read it out of habit, but to those who open their hearts to change. A verse enters only the heart that seeks it. A person may read the same page 1,000 times without effect, then read it once with sincerity and discover a door he never knew existed." Reflection, to Ibn Al-Qayyim, is not about how much you read, but how present your heart is. He concludes with a powerful truth. The Quran never leaves a person unchanged. Either it elevates him or it leaves him behind. Whoever wants this book to lift him must open his heart before his eyes. For the verses that transform a person are not those memorized by the tongue, but those that settle in the heart and become a light by which he walks through life's darkness. Conclusion: a call to the hearts, not the eyes. Ibn al-Qayyim's journey with the Quran is not merely words to be read or reflections to be heard. It is an open invitation for every person to search for his heart first, then place it before God to be purified, illuminated, and restored to the clarity that time has clouded. Whoever lives with these reflections comes to understand that the Quran does not demand perfection, but sincerity. Sincerity of effort, sincerity of returning, and honesty in admitting the need for light. We learn that the heart is the mirror on which all verses are reflected, that sincerity is the key to understanding, that reliance on God is the rest the lost are seeking, that self-accountability reveals how God sees you, and that desire, no matter how appealing, leads only to darkness. But the Quran, when it settles in the heart, grants a firmness in life unlike any other. In the end, every moment that draws you closer to God is a gain. Every step away from heedlessness is salvation, and every meaning you grasp from the Quran is a new light added to your heart. And God, in His mercy, never closes the door to a servant who wishes to return, no matter how heavy his sins, no matter how long his distance. Let these reflections be a beginning, not an ending. Let them be a daily invitation to return to the Quran with a renewed heart, to hear its verses with the ear of the soul, and to live its meanings as God intended them to be lived, as light, guidance, and tranquility.